So we've got just about 5 minutes left. So if anyone's got any kind of final questions, then now's the time to ask them. So I guess what I'd like to do just for those last 5 minutes, Joe, is to bring us around to, I guess, you know, one of the biggest talking points globally at the moment, which is the Black Lives Matter movement. So in your view, should existing plans for diversity and inclusion activity be adapted following the recent developments? What's your view of how we respond to Black Lives Matter movement in our businesses?
So I think people need to consider striking a balance here, because I think there is a danger that people will appear to be too reactive to what's going on in the world at the moment. Now, that's not to suggest that people don't need to do something in recognition, but I would say, what does your current D&I strategy overall look like at the moment? And if you don't have one, is this a time that you need to establish one? Because I think if you respond to something, you can do a great piece of work, or you can do an event, or you can publish something internally or even externally as well. And then it can lose traction because you've not planned ahead for what it's going to need to be in order to be sustainable. And what does that say to the communities that you're trying to support? It says that they're only cared about at a certain point in time. So again, do you have networks, or do you have a diversity and inclusion network? And what does that network do to support areas like race? How can you respond in certain, perhaps light touch ways? So it might be small learning sessions around awareness of things like that. And again, who are you consulting with in order to put them together? So make sure that you're trying to get hold of somebody with some lived experience that they can bring to that. But then what are you doing alongside that to demonstrate your commitment to build that broader strategy? What are the pillars of that strategy? How do they fit in with the overall organizational strategy? You know, what does good look like in terms of the day-to-day, rather than we're just doing this in response to it? I think also, if people are looking to do events, whether or not that is something that is more of a remote event, for example, particularly with what's going on at the moment, beware that people get event fatigue, as I call it. So again, if you're starting up networks or you're looking to have an inclusion drive of sorts, if you are going to run an event, what more are you going to get from it? How are you going to use it as a piece of education as well as a get-together? How are you going to use it to broaden the network of people who are interested in what you're doing? You know, what's the messaging and what's the outputs and the return on that investment for events? And also, what again are you doing to support leaders around what's going on with Black Lives Matter at the moment? Because they're going to need to field questions, both from people who are interested about it, but also people who are concerned, who potentially belong to that community as well. So, and again, another thing that I would say is looking again at what we've already established to be intersectionality. So make sure that you're not doing a one-size-fits-all people in that community sweep, because they will all have other characteristics that make them intersectional as well.